some of the single malts that we make. I mentioned a couple of the smokier ones. Today we're actually going to start you guys off by tasting slightly gentler, more mellow style. But we're actually going to start off with Singleton of Glenord. We're going to start with a 12-year-old. Now this one's really close to my heart. I actually live in Inverness, in the Highlands of Scotland. So Singleton of Glenord Distillery is about 15 kilometres from my house. So it's one I probably find myself visiting the most often. And it's a really beautiful distillery. They actually have their own maltings on site, they prepare the barley, they do a lot of the work on site before they even start distilling. And when they create this whiskey, Singleton of Glenord is for me a great place to begin with single malts. It's very approachable, it's mellow, it's smooth, it's rounded, beautifully balanced. For me it's a great, great single malt. And one that if you're in Scotland, do make a point of visiting. Now this is a great example, I think, of a Highland style of Scotch whisky. Some of you may know in Scotland we do have different Scotch producing regions. We have the Highlands in the north where I'm from. We have Speyside, so further east, which tends traditionally to produce a richer, more elegant, complex style of Scotch. You have the Lowlands to the south, where they make traditionally a more delicate, sweeter style. To the south of that we have England. We don't talk about them, okay? Over on the west coast, we have Islay, which I mentioned already. Creates a beautiful, smoky, powerful style of Scotch whisky. And these are the traditional styles, but I would say those regional lines are becoming a little blurred. Some people in Islay are making unsmoked whisky. Some people in Speyside are making smoked. So we still recognise them as legal regions, but they're not as defining in terms of taste and flavour as they maybe once were. So do bear that in mind. If someone describes something as an Islay style, that's not as relevant now as it used to be. But you can still say a traditional Highland style. This for me is a great example of a traditional Highland style. Mellow, accessible, smooth, and balanced. When we're maturing this Scotch whisky, we use a combination of casks to mature it. It's all from one distillery, it's a single malt, but we do use a combination of cask types. And in the industry, we tend to use predominantly ex-American oak, casks that would have probably held bourbon or Tennessee whiskey. And when we mature in those cask types, we get a lot of that vanilla, almond sweetness that you would expect from that type of wood. We also use ex-European oak, Spanish red oak, Burke's Robar. And this is a wood that gives a more rich, tannic, has got some of that European red oak influence. When you smell it, that's certainly going to come through. You get that richness, you get a little bit of fruity notes going on there, but there's also a sweetness, there's a toffee caramel sweetness. If you're very, very thorough, you can just pick up on a little wisp of smoke in the background. It's so subtle, you can barely detect it. Similarly, when you taste it, you can barely taste that smoke, but it gives a little hint of dryness just on the side of the palate. It's very, very subtle, but it's there, and it's to be enjoyed. So you pick up your Scotch, give it a quick smell, see if you agree with what I've just said. Maybe you don't, that's okay. One thing I should say is that nosing and tasting of Scotch whisky, it's a very personal journey. Everyone's life experiences are unique to them. That's the beauty of being a human being, okay? If I say this reminds me of a confectionery from when I was a child, or my garden when I was growing up, that might be very pertinent to me, it might mean nothing to you. Everyone's experiences are different, and when you smell something, it beautifully always triggers memories. It doesn't just trigger, this smells like that, this reminds me of something. So when you're nosing and tasting Scotch, do that. Don't just think, what does this smell like? Think, what does this remind me of? And you'll find that's much more emotive, it's much more evocative as well. And it helps you to really frame that flavour much better. So when you're smelling this, don't think, what's it taste like, what's it smell like? think, what's the memories that are sparked? Your sense of smell is one of your most powerful senses, and it's closely linked to memory. So use that sense of smell, use those memories to generate your own tasting notes, okay? Don't just write down what I tell you. Think about what is sparking in your memories and record that as the tasting notes. Give it a taste now. I think you've all had a little smell. Give it a taste. Cheers. This to me is a beautiful whiskey. Very approachable. It's got some sweetness, yeah. It's lovely, I think. Quite rich. The other thing to think about and consider is the texture. And we're going to talk about texture again when we look at the blended scotches. But the texture on this is lovely. It's a little bit creamy, it kind of clings to the palate. Now this distillery is making such great whiskey and it's becoming so popular. We've actually recently just finished almost doubling the capacity on this distillery. So it's actually, we've doubled it to produce more of this liquid because it's proving so popular. So thank you guys for enjoying this so much. It's great. Lastly, think about the aftertaste. That's something that a lot of people fail to consider. Do think about what lingers. Sometimes you'll find flavours become more prevalent. Other flavours will actually fade away quite quickly. A good whiskey will give you that whole journey from when you first pick it up and look at it to when you're getting those memories of flavour coming back and everything in between. And I think this does this very, very nicely. For me, I get a lovely little bit of that toffee caramel sweetness. It just remains, it kind of lingers beautifully and very, very slowly fades away. I think it's quite an enjoyable experience actually, tasting this one. Have a little sip of water, cleanse your palate. We're going to bring out the next whiskey. Okay? So the next whiskey we're going to look at is Singleton & Glenord's Signature. Let me tell you a little bit about that one while they're bringing it out. Singleton & Glenord's Signature is a whiskey which was created relatively recently. And it was created by one of our masters of whiskey. It's a lady called Maureen Robinson. Now Maureen I've known for many, many years. She's a wonderful lady. She's worked with our company for over 30 years, okay, as a blender. So think about that. Not many people these days will work in the same job, in the same role for 3 decades. That's really unusual. The reason she's done that, she loves what she does, and she's really good at it, okay? She's passionate about recreating flavors time upon time, but she's also hugely passionate about playing with flavor and developing new tastes. And when we asked her to create Singleton & Glenord's Signature, we said to her, free reign, you can use any casks you want from Singleton & Glenord. We want you to create an interesting whiskey with depth, with complexity, with great balance. So she actually decided to use quite a wide range of cask types to mature this Scotch whiskey, from a range of ages. So you're looking at something with a lot of complexity going on here. She started with some fresh American bourbon barrels. So these have held bourbon once, and then this liquid. And that gives you a lot of that vanilla that I mentioned earlier. So it's pulling a lot of that vanilla, lactones, vanillins out of the wood, and adding some flavour and complexity to the whiskey. She also used refill casks from America. That has a similar effect in terms of flavour, but it's more subtle, it's gentler. So you're getting the same flavours being imparted, but they're mellower, they're more rounded. She also used what we call rejuvenated casks. Now that's maybe a term people aren't as familiar with. Have you guys heard of rejuvenated casks before? No? Okay, so this is something that we've done for a long time in the industry, but we've recently got very, very good and accurate at it. And to rejuvenate a cask is when you have a cask that's been used many, many times. It's going to give all it can give to the Scotch. So at that point we have the choice to sell it on, chop it in half and use it as a flat pot perhaps, or we can rejuvenate it. And to rejuvenate it, we shave the interior, and then that exposes a new layer of oak to us, which we can re-char. So it gives it a new lease of life. But it doesn't just reset the clock to 0. It actually allows some nice spicy notes to come through into the Scotch whisky. So by using these rejuvenated casks, we get a beautiful spiciness coming through the liquid as well. So that's some of the casks she's using from the American oak side. But she's also using a range of casks from the European oak side. This is a very complex, but very approachable liquid. So from the European oak side, she's using fresh casks. It held sherry once, and then this liquid. That gives you a big boost of rich berry fruits. Almost, you you guys have had like Christmas cake, you know, that fruit cake?